Work hard for 40 years and you'll retire rich and happy, said every grandparent who bought their first house for the price of a new iPhone. Back then, the deals sounded simple. Put in your time, collect your pension, and sail off into the golden years. But here's the problem. That promise was made in a world where lifespans were shorter, costs were lower, and the system actually worked. Today, not so much. When retirement was first introduced, it wasn't just a financial tool. It was a story people could believe in. The idea was simple. Work hard, hit 65, and then the system would take care of you. And here's the ironic twist. That magic age of 65 was picked at a time when the average person didn't even live much past it. Retirement was less a decades-long lifestyle and more like a quick victory lap before the curtain closed. The system looked generous on paper because it rarely had to actually pay out for very long. For those who did make it, the setup felt solid. Companies offered pensions that guaranteed steady checks for life. You didn't have to gamble in the stock market or understand investment strategies. Your employer handled the risk, and you reaped the benefits. It was predictable, simple, and required nothing more than showing up and doing your job for a few decades. And the lifestyle math actually worked. One income was enough to buy a house, support a family, and even stash away savings on the side. A single paycheck stretched far enough to cover essentials, luxuries, and the occasional vacation. Compare that to today, where one paycheck might get you half the rent and some takeout if you're lucky. Back then, families weren't crushed under student loans, mortgages were reasonable, and healthcare didn't feel like a second job just to afford. The whole pitch of retirement was that it was a sure thing. Work hard, stay loyal, and one day you'd walk into your golden years without a worry. It wasn't sold as a risky dream or a financial puzzle you had to solve yourself. It was sold as a guarantee, baked into the deal of life. Fast forward to today, and that retirement promise looks a lot shakier. The first problem is wages. For decades, paychecks have barely budged, while the cost of, well, everything has gone vertical. Careful. The math doesn't line up anymore. At the same time, companies decided pensions were a little too generous. Instead of guaranteeing lifetime income, they handed the risk back to workers with 401ks and retirement accounts. Translation: we're done. You're on your own. Good luck beating Wall Street with your evenings and weekends. Now, retirement isn't a guarantee. It's a do-it-yourself project. And even if you're disciplined enough to save, there's another problem. People are living longer. That might sound like a blessing, but for the retirement system, it's a nightmare. Instead of supporting retirees for 5 or 10 years, the system now has to cover 20 or 30. The money has to stretch much further, and most savings plans weren't designed for that kind of marathon. Add in demographics, and the math gets uglier. Decades ago, you had plenty of workers paying into the system for each retiree drawing benefits. Today, it's flipped. Fewer workers, more retirees, and governments scrambling to make the numbers balance. Some countries are already raising retirement ages. Others are quietly cutting benefits. And all of them are hoping nobody notices the cracks until it's too late. Put simply, retirement went from being the finish line everyone could reach to a privilege that fewer and fewer people can afford. For most, it means working longer, saving harder, and still wondering if it'll be enough. The deal has changed, but the expectations never caught up. The blunt reality is that the retirement system people were promised has collapsed under its own weight. What was once marketed as a guarantee, work hard, collect benefits, enjoy your golden years, has turned into a privilege. And not just any privilege, one reserved for the wealthy, the obsessive savers, or the incredibly lucky. For everyone else, retirement has quietly shifted from standard life stage to pipe dream. For most, the outcome is working longer, not because they're chasing passion projects or trying to stay busy, but because they literally can't afford to stop. The idea of retiring at 65, or even 67, is slowly being replaced by the reality of working into your 70s or even 80s. Instead of fishing trips and golf courses, many older adults are still clocking in, stocking shelves, or running side hustles just to keep the lights on. Then there's the group that manages to step away, but only by shrinking their lifestyle to survival mode. Downsizing homes, saying goodbye to travel, skipping restaurants, and budgeting every dollar of Social Security just to scrape by. Retirement was pitched as freedom, but for them, it's a new kind of confinement. Life on a financial diet where one surprise expense can throw everything off. And let's not forget the dependency problem. Government programs like Social Security and state pensions were never built for today's numbers. Too many retirees, not enough workers paying in. The math doesn't work, and everyone knows it. It's like trying to balance an elephant on a bar stool. You can pretend it's fine for a while, but eventually, that stool is snapping in half. The promise of retirement was supposed to be the finish line after decades of work. A moment of relief, a chance to breathe. But today it's looking more like a treadmill that never shuts off. You run and run and run, waiting for the reward at the end, only to realize the machine just keeps speeding up. For millions of people, the golden years aren't golden at all. They're just another grind. So here's the bottom line. Retirement, as it was sold to past generations, is a broken promise. The system wasn't built for today's lifespans, today's costs, or today's economy. For most people, waiting until 65 and hoping everything magically works out is like buying a lottery ticket and calling it a retirement plan. But here's the good news. You don't have to play by those rules. There is a way to reach financial freedom earlier without relying on broken systems or hoping for miracles. It's not flashy, it's not exciting, and it's definitely not a get-rich-quick scheme. In fact, it's boring, and that's exactly why it works. In the next video, we'll break down how to actually retire early. Until then, check out this video about how the future of money could look like